Welcome back, Only Fools and those who follow them, to part 2 of our Obi-Wan introspective. We spent the first episode talking about a lot of his relationships with Anakin and the Jedi Order. In this episode, we're going to go into Duchess Satine, we're going to go into Maul, and how long-lasting of a character Obi-Wan truly is in this Star Wars universe. So we're very happy to have you along. Remember, you can always reach out via email at onlystarwarsfools@gmail.com. Send us a voice message at speakpipe.com/onlyfools. We will chat about whatever you want to chat about, and we'll keep building this foolish community that's all about George Lucas's baby, Star Wars. Enjoy. Here we go. Obi-Wan Part 2. So perhaps Obi-Wan was kind of a victim of his spot in the timeline, because he had another deep connection in a relationship that was really frowned upon in that era, which was his connection with Duchess Satine.
He did indeed.
Connection, love, all of those things were an absolute no-go for a Jedi, where in previous times in the High Republic, I think those could have been worked through a little bit more. But let's do a little overview of Obi-Wan and Duchess Satine. Obi-Wan is initially in the Satine Kryze family because he's looking at Death Watch on Mandalore, and Satine is kind of this, princess duchess figure, and he becomes quite fond of her quite quickly because they both agree on this foundational element of pacifism. And we talked about Obi-Wan as the negotiator earlier, and really wanting to avoid conflict at all costs. So that was one of their initial touch points.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember, but in that episode early in the Clone Wars, when that sort of takes place, there is mention of a previous relationship between the two, or certainly an acquaintanceship. They knew each other from some earlier time, and yeah, they were obviously very close to engaging in a relationship at that time, but never did because of Obi-Wan's devotion to the Jedi Order and then the principles of non-attachment.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's kind of every time we see Satine again throughout the Clone Wars, that kind of unrequited love story seems to is front and center each time.
Yeah, it's almost like, it feels like they had a college fling at some point, and they felt like they were meant to be together, but knowing that they never could.
That idea reminds me of a scene in Forrest Gump where Forrest Gump is alone with what's her name?
Jenny,
Robin Wright's character, and she's at college at this time, or no, she's not in college, but she's at that sort of age, and she's kind of a topless dancer or whatever instead, and she's not really fulfilling her dreams, but he ends up beating up someone in her car, and then they go back to her room, and she kind of says, "Have you ever been with a woman, Forrest?" And it's sort of, I'll kind of leave it there, but it ends with Forrest having had a sort of moment whereby he's a bit confused as to what's just happened, and then it sort of, they go their separate ways, and I feel like maybe that's what happened with Obi-Wan and Satine sometime.
I can see it perfectly with kind of goofy, awkward Obi-Wan. I don't think I should be doing this.
Yeah, this is just clearly just far too tempting. That's what I like to imagine anyway.
That's some great headcanon right there. I like that. I think it's not too far off, because there is this little awkwardy cat and mousiness between them. But at the end of the day, it does show that Obi-Wan and Anakin, outside of the Jedi Order, some of their desires and wants, not too far off from each other. And if Obi-Wan had just been a bit more honest with Anakin of, this is something that I'm struggling with, how do we help each other with this, instead of let's bottle it up and keep it entirely separate, and then it destroys us, which is what they end up doing. So I pulled up a clip that I thought might be nice to show from Clone Wars, and it's just going to fast forward all to the end of Obi-Wan and Duchess Satine's relationship, but shows how steadfast Obi-Wan remains in the Jedi Order and in his practices as a Jedi.
Your noble flaw is a weakness shared by you and your Duchess. You should have chosen the dark side, Master Jedi. Your emotions betray you. Your fear and, yes, your anger. Let your anger deepen your hatred.
Don't listen to him, Obi.
Quiet.
You can kill me, but you will never destroy me. It takes strength to resist the dark side. Only the weak embrace it.
It is more powerful than you know.
And those who oppose it are more powerful than you'll ever be. I know where you're from. I've been to your village. I know the decision to join the dark side wasn't yours. The Night Sisters made it for you.
Silence! You think you know me? It was I who languished for years, thinking of nothing but you. Nothing but this moment. And now, the perfect tool for my vengeance is in front of us. I never planned on killing you, but I will make you share my pain, Kenobi.
Remember, my dear Obi-Wan. I've loved you always. I always will.
I want to pause it there, but do you want to go back for like the final 30 seconds in a few moments? Absolutely brutal. And if you haven't seen these episodes or seen the arc, definitely check out the Clone Wars episodes related to it. Something that stood out to me there was, in the moment, even though Satine is strung up by Maul, Obi-Wan leans into his negotiator pacifist role and he goes, Maul, I've been to your planet. I know where you come from. Like, let me help you with this. And in that moment, he's choosing to adhere to this Jedi Order principle instead of saving this person that he loves, which would entail, attacking Maul and trying to defeat him. And he just won't do it because in his mind, it's leaning into the dark side, leaning into those attachments, which will be his downfall. And it results in this person that he loves being killed. And he tries to negotiate with somebody that is never going to negotiate with him to begin with. So there's
the ultimate in sacrifice, isn't it? Really is, yeah.
Yeah, but is it okay to sacrifice another for your own pacifism and adherence to the Jedi Order?
That's far too deep a philosophical question for this show, I feel.
For a podcast called Only Fools and Those Who Follow Them.
Yeah, exactly. Can we try and keep it light?
Oh.
It's a light entertainment show.
Come on, it's getting hot in here. I think though that is it's one of the beautiful things about Star Wars is you could honestly throw a dart at any episode of any series on Disney Plus and crack it open and see how is this relevant in the Star Wars timeline? How is it relevant to current society? How is it relevant to mythology and practices of old? You can really draw so many connections, and the animation is still fantastic in this show, and the voice acting is unreal as well. So there's just so much fun to be had.
It all comes back to testament to the brilliance of George Lucas, right? Because that's what he did with the original trilogy, was the parallels between Vietnam War, post-Vietnam War America, and all of the sort of parallels between, America being the empire, not quite coming out as victorious, those parallels that are there in the original trilogy. And it's testament to his ability to world build, and he's created that sandbox for everyone else to play in, that then it can be considered timeless in the sense that it can always move with the times that we live in. I mean, up until the point that AI wipes us all out. But essentially, I think that's the beauty of it. And as you say, like, any part of it can be taken and dissected and looked at, and really, and one thing that sort of, because obviously in preparation for this, I went back and rewatched the Obi-Wan Kenobi spin-off show all the way through each episode, and also part of the documentary featurette. And something that we touched on previously, that about how Obi-Wan was such a, as you were saying then with Anakin, that he could have helped him through his relationship issues or whatever, but he never really wanted to be his master, right? He never. It was a reluctant choice that he had to make on Qui-Gon's deathbed. And funnily enough, as I was going through, and we sort of talked about it, and as I was going through that documentary, there's a little clip of behind the scenes with George and Ewan from back in '99 or whenever, when they were making The Phantom Menace. And Ewan walks into a room, and George Lucas basically tells him exactly this. He tells him that you don't really want to be his teacher, his master. You're a bit annoyed about it. Yeah. And he actually says it. He actually says that, and I was like, oh, that's what I said on the podcast the other day. I felt like, yeah,
brilliant. It's all tied together. Hey, exactly. We're tuned into the galaxy here, all right?
Yeah. So I mean, I kind of digressed and went a bit all over the place there, but 100%. And I think that's what's great about this sort of world, is that it's made up of relationships and connections. And with Satine, obviously, it was this unrequited love story that I've also seen that somebody's done there's an AI deepfake live action version of that moment, and I've seen a part of it on YouTube, or I've seen the thumbnail on YouTube, and they've obviously made a deep fake of like a live action Ewan holding somebody, as a Duchess Satine in that final moment just before she dies. I haven't watched the actual video, but
interesting. Wonder if that's the way forward. Just all of Clone Wars will be repurposed as AI.
Well, it's like that's Disney, right? They did it with all the all the Disney movies. So
So maybe another 10 years and we'll get 7 seasons of live action Clone Wars.
Oh, live action Clone Wars! Imagine how cool would that be?
That'd be amazing. I'd be all over it. So as Obi-Wan goes through his life, there are some people that perhaps fall victim to his adherence to the Jedi Order. Anakin maybe was destined to fall anyway. Duchess Satine gets caught in this trap in the middle of Clone Wars, but Obi-Wan is beside both of those characters as he goes. Certainly not his fault, but he's there in the sphere. And the other character that we saw in that scene, who's in the sphere of Obi-Wan, is Maul. And you started off our podcast with the proper Maul scream of Sam Witwer's Kenobi! Mm-hmm. And for those who haven't watched Clone Wars, you're not going to know what Maul brings to this story, and you're not going to know the connections of Obi-Wan and Maul that they have. But it basically results in Maul coming back from being cut in half and trying as hard as he possibly can to just hurt, injure, and maim Obi-Wan, but keep him alive long enough while he makes all those around him suffer as much as possible. So I'm just going to go back to this clip, and we're going to watch that final little bit. So Maul can explain a little bit what his goals are.
Do we kill him now, brother? No. Imprison him below. Let him drown in his misery. Take him to his cell to rot.
Feeling quite pleased with himself.
That's proper vindictive as well, isn't it? Let him drown in his misery.
Yeah, let him rot. Because that's what Maul has been doing, is drowning in his misery and rotting, and he's just been trying to get back at him.
An eye for an eye. Say that, they're just saying that he was, chopped in half and left to rot in the bottom of some sort of Nubian Nabunian hellhole at the bottom of that shaft. Yeah.
So are you saying it would have been more poetic if he had sliced Satine in half?
Kind of, but then it would have just been like, come on, it would have been a bit trite, wouldn't it? But I mean, it's brutal enough, the impaling her in front of Obi-Wan.
Right. And I guess it's even more Maul. If he slices her in half, she's dead and doesn't get to, speak some final words to Obi-Wan. He really wants it to be terrible for Obi-Wan. So stabs her just enough so that she can whisper her, sweet nothings of "I'll always love you," and Obi-Wan has to sit with that for the rest of his life.
Don't forget, by this point, Maul has been through the ringer, so he's been subjected to some serious pain and torture, not just but from the hands of Obi-Wan, but also Palpatine's had a good go at him as well by this point in his arc. But there's the Dark Horse Comics series about Darth Maul that goes into sort of a period of that you see in the sort of one of the episodes in Clone Wars at the end where Sidious actually so you see in that clip that you just played, Savage Opress, who's his brother, and Sidious kind of deals with them both, kills Savage, and then sort of says, "I've got other plans for you," with Maul, and there's the comic picks up directly off of the back of there where Maul is in a sort of detention center getting absolutely brutalized, tortured. So he's been through the ringer big time. So I think that's why when you pick up with him again in Rebels, and he's older and he's more sort of decrepit and kind of a bit ruined, but still out for blood and still looking for that moment of glorious revenge over Obi-Wan. And that, and then they obviously have their short duel on Tatooine when he finally finds him again. And what's interesting about that is, that in that moment there's a sort of moment of parallel and almost a moment of brotherhood between them, and that at that point is kind of like Obi-Wan. I can't remember exactly what he says, but he says something fairly poignant to him, and he actually holds him in the same way that he holds
Satine. Qui-Gon. Oh yeah, and Qui-Gon,
and Qui-Gon and Satine. He holds when you think about it, Obi-Wan has been through all this tragedy, and he's held
so much trauma,
both his friends and his enemies in the same way, which is the epitome of the Jedi way, in my view. It's like, it's compassion for all. It's totally lament in death, regardless of which side of the fence you're sitting on.
Yeah. He does have this moment of like, rest easy, sweet child, and closes his eyelids for his grandest enemy, this person who's been out for him the moment he ever saw him. It's this dichotomous look of perhaps his adherence to the Jedi Order has been to the detriment of others, but his adherence to the Jedi Order has been to the positive outcome for him and for all those around him as well. He's just impacts so many people, which is why I think this one just has to be a two-parter, because there's so many relationships to build on here. But thinking about him because he's kind of hermit at that stage in his life when Maul comes around. He's been convening with Qui-Gon to learn this practice of how to kind of project himself as a Force ghost, and he's quite the recluse and surely hasn't been picking up his lightsaber a whole lot to practice. But you can tell the moment Maul rocks up at that campfire and Obi-Wan's there, Obi-Wan knows Maul is toast. He knows he's done. He's already scripted what he's going to do. And I think one of the coolest things, I mean, the actual fight scene is like 20 seconds, but you could go frame by frame on it and just nerd out, because he starts out with his very young Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor pose of, kind of fingers out, and he goes through the ages of all the different poses, and the one he settles on is actually of Qui-Gon. So he's in the moment tricking Maul into attacking him the same
samurai
way.
Sword,
The same way that Maul had attacked Qui-Gon, which in the moment Obi-Wan knows that he's too driven by hate to be truly present in this fight. He's just trying to seek revenge. So he tricks him into doing that trick with his double-edged lightsaber to kind of catch him on the chin, and in that moment he just gives him a solid samurai slice, and the fight is over.
Yeah, I remember watching that scene with my kids, because it was like, for months I was like, you got to see Rebels, you got to get through Rebels, because they hadn't watched it for ages, and then I was like, come on, get through Rebels, because once you get to season 3 and 4, it's just amazing. And then you'll finally, and they were already playing Battlefront 2, and they were hearing Kenobi, because it's one of the emotes you can do on there. And I was like, you don't even know where Kenobi is from. You got to see it. You got to see it. So then, I remember watching that scene again with them, and they were like, oh yeah, here we go, because they'd already seen, Clone Wars season 7 where Maul and Ahsoka face off, and that is one hell of a fight scene. Yeah. That's incredible. And I saw, again, I didn't realize that Ray Park actually came back and did the motion capture for that scene.
I had no idea. That's cool.
So that another behind the scenes little tidbit, which is kind of really, really cool. And then, but then you're thinking, as a kid watching it, you're thinking for the first time, here we go. I'm going to get the most badass fight scene ever. And it is.
It is, yeah.
But it isn't what you expect.
Yeah.
But you're still satisfied because of how cool it plays out. And definitely. I think kudos to Filoni on that, and how he kind of took that samurai vibe in that scene. It's perfect. Absolutely perfect.
And to do it at night under the stars, speckled, clear Tatooine sky with crackling. It's just you get lo-fi vibes all throughout. And it's just these two figures in amazing high def animation with particles of sand flying through the air. Yeah. I know what I'm going to do after we're done with this episode is I'm going to have to watch that scene also, for the 800th time.
It reminds me of a legendary photograph still from the Phantom Menace that it wasn't actually put in the movie, but there was a brilliant still on Tatooine of a young Obi-Wan, as Ewan's character, jumping towards Maul. They're jumping towards each other, and I had it we used to get this like magazine called the Radio Times in Britain. It's basically like TV Guide magazine, right?
Yeah.
And when the Phantom Menace came out, they did I wish I'd have kept it. They did a special, and they had in the centerfold was this picture of them jumping at each other on Tatooine. And obviously when I saw the movie, I was like, oh man, that scene wasn't in it, because he fights Qui-Gon briefly on Tatooine, and then Qui-Gon jumps on the ship. But there was, I guess, a cut somewhere where Obi-Wan also battles him on the sands of Tatooine in the Phantom Menace in that moment. But yeah, I guess they decided to kind of go a different way with that, and leave it to Obi-Wan to say, why do I get the feeling we've picked up another pathetic life form instead?
Obi-Wan, so complex, like overly cheeky, but also this, religious hermit. He's all over the place. He really is.
And I mean, I suppose that, sort of touching on how many relationships he kind of how integral he is to the whole story. He is the kind of wizard that started it all. So if you think about episode 4, then he's the older, wiser wizard type of character that sends Luke on his quest. So he's I just think that's why he's, in my view, the greatest Jedi and arguably the greatest character in the whole saga.
I get it through and through. Another relationship I'm thinking of is, you mentioned him kind of playing that wizard role in the hero's journey. And the way he's summoned is by Leia. And he and Leia have quite a history, as we saw in the Kenobi show that you just mentioned that you had just recently rewatched. And he's far from a wizard during that season. He's much more of kind of rogue, mavericky, a Qui-Gon-y sort of, Jedi in some ways. But
at the start of the series, he's a little bit Luke Skywalker in Episode 8, isn't he? He's pretty down on his luck, and he's pretty, but he's not quite as sort of morose, but he's pretty much there. He's like, it was all a lie, it was all a dream, we couldn't have achieved it. It was all. He even says something along those lines that it was all folly. The best thing you can do is take your lightsaber. He says it to the other Jedi who gets strung up. You may as well take your lightsaber and go and bury it in the desert somewhere.
Right.
Yeah,
you can't really get much further off the cliff than that. Luke manages to. He manages to go a bit further because Obi-Wan is still held together by protecting Luke, and that's his through and through mission. He doesn't think it requires a lightsaber. It doesn't require any of that. It just requires a watchful eye. And he's fully resigned himself to shift work and slicing Eope steaks down at the meat factory and pocketing one at home. That's his day-to-day, and he's okay with that. And there's almost a sense of like, I deserve this. I was part of the problem of the Jedi Order, and I deserve this punishment, is what he's projecting to others. But I get the feeling from that scene that he's putting on a bit of a front because he feels like that'll resonate with that Jedi, because at the end of the day, he just wants to save everybody, and he wants everybody to be fine, everybody to be great. And he's not going to say, hey, I can teach you this like communing with the Force trick, and then you can help the other Jedi that are out there too. He knows that's not going to work. So he just says, bury your stuff and go run away and hide. And that'll keep you alive for as long as possible. Because back in his hermit hole, he's very much in tune with being able to commune and project himself. Although he's also somewhat cut off from the Force and not able to be as closely tied to it. So he's almost like putting himself in power reserve mode and saying, I got to be able to do one thing, and that's be there post-mortem for Luke Skywalker in whatever way that looks like. Everything else is a moot point. So then in Kenobi, we get him starting there and then building this connection with Leia and having to protect her while also knowing the person he's meant to protect is back on Tatooine alone with Jackhole Uncle Owen. And so he's feeling pulled by that. He's got to protect Leia, but also he doesn't really want to out himself as this Jedi, and he really doesn't want to face Vader. He doesn't want to have anything to do with facing Anakin again. He already had to do that once. So there's all these different elements pulling at him at once. But how does that impact his relationship with Leia and how we end up in Episode 4?
What I love about the Kenobi series is that he meets a 10-year-old Leia, and she basically becomes his talk therapist.
Yeah, so true.
So basically, through their sort of buddy, it's like a buddy movie. So through their sort of relationship, the old washed up old man and this young girl who's full of energy and life and vigor, but also it's brilliant casting of Lyra Blair in that role, because she is just perfect in terms of her delivery of sort of no nonsense kind of attitude that Leia sort of exudes all through Star Wars. And then she kind of talks to him, he talks to her, he drops her some pearls of wisdom, she kind of pushes back with stop being so sorry for yourself and get on with it kind of thing. Or he not necessarily overtly, she does it so superbly well in just how she is and how she behaves that he kind of thinks, I need to kind of get out of my I'm in a bit of a rut here and I need to get out of it and get on with life, move on and stop thinking about the past and move on basically, and keep moving forward. And then obviously there is a point where that starts that tide starts to shift after he's had a pretty disastrous first encounter with Vader, and once he's realized that Anakin is still alive and that is who he is, and he's in shock, and he doesn't want to fight him. He refuses to fight him. He refuses to face him even, and he tries to kind of run away. And then Anakin eventually, Vader eventually finds him. And similarly to Maul in that sense of like, because he was left to burn, right? He wants to punish him, so he puts him on fire, punishes him a little bit. Obi-Wan gets out by the skin of his teeth, and you start to kind of see him sort of turn the corner at that point where it's like, okay, I've seen him, I've survived. I now need to decide who I'm going to be tomorrow. Like, this is who I am now. Is it who I want to be tomorrow? What is the path that I'm on? Qui-Gon ain't coming.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to do this myself and get my shit together. And it's only really when Leia's been taken again that he's like, all right, I've got to do what I said I was going to do and protect these kids.
Yeah. This is my calling.
And right now it's her that's the one that I need to protect.
Yeah. Which thankfully so, because as we talked about in our Leia episode, her largest connection with the Force is having deep connections with others and being able to connect on a very emotional, personal level. And that's what Obi-Wan needed in that moment, was this reminder that you are enough. You are enough, Obi-Wan Kenobi. And you just need to remember your morals and get back to that. And here I am. So this is your chance to step back into who you were and who you want to be.
So once he gets back in the saddle, or starts to get back in the saddle, when he's just made that decision that he's gonna do whatever it takes to kind of to save Leia and protect these kids, he then sort of starts to turn the corner, and he's no longer reflecting in a negative way on the past. He then starts to use his past and use his experience, and that is the beauty of Obi-Wan, because that's how he comes across, is the experienced. I've seen this before. I can handle things. I'm master tactician.
Yeah.
And I think in that series again is kind of testament to the direction to Deborah Chow's direction. I think one of the scenes that I'd like to kind of touch on that sort of exhibits this kind of attitude of Obi-Wan when he's turned the corner and he remembers who he is the episode where it's kind of intercut with scenes of the past where he and a supposedly younger Anakin are training on Coruscant, having a training duel, and it was amazing to see Hayden and Ewan together with blue lightsabers duking it out again. But it's intercut with scenes of the sort of present moment with Vader hunting Vader and the Inquisitors hunting Obi-Wan on that moon, and it's where Obi-Wan is using his knowledge and experience of strategy, but also of his former Padawan. He knows how he's going to behave. He knows exactly what's going to happen next. And the sequences are just so perfectly put together through the whole episode, and it culminates in this great sort of cat and mouse win, victory for Obi-Wan with this sort of classic piece of subtle fox-like trickery.
You're a great warrior, Anakin. But you'll need to prove yourself as your undoing. Until you overcome it, a Padawan you will still be.
Imagine how livid Vader is in that moment. He's like, he's done it again.
God, I hate him. He's so annoying. But yeah, I love the way you phrased that it's through this series, specifically perhaps in this scene, where Kenobi can finally take his memories of training Anakin, which have just become this very negative experience, and he can turn it into some positive elements. Then that kind of propels him forward. Of it wasn't all a total failure. It wasn't all a total wash. I can learn from that. I can apply it, and through that, he's saving loads of people, and he's building a very strong connection with Leia. Yeah, amazing episode. I think it's the second to last episode. This one.
Yeah, that's my favorite. I think that's my favorite episode. I mean, the last one's pretty damn good as well, but that stuck with me, that one, because it's also, I think it's that episode as well where he has a moment where the realization about who Reva is at that point as well, which is quite cool as well.
Yeah, definitely. So we get Leia as a 10-year-old, tight with Obi-Wan. And then we get Leia reaching out to Obi-Wan, 1-800-KENOBI, asking for some help. Why does she only think that Obi-Wan is the one to go to in that moment? Or what do you think of that transmission based on the relationship that they've had in the past?
Yeah, well, we kind of discussed this before, but she in episode 4, she's kind of reaching out as almost, as if she'd never met him before, but which I suppose in those days, realistically, she hadn't.
Right.
But well, obviously we have this now. But you made the point that it could have been that in that time that she's had to grow up since being 10 years old to 19, I think she's supposed to be in episode 4 but she's also clearly the diplomat's daughter. She's learned that sort of diplomatic language. And this is the first time she's probably reached out to him since that adventure they had together. And she knows that she probably does need to be a bit sort of formal, also in case any of the transmissions are intercepted, where there's got to be an element of kind of making it really, really clear with her messaging. So when she's sort of, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope, she isn't kind of texting him and saying, hello, me again. I'm in trouble.
Just like last time. Can you save me?
Just like, do you remember me?
Remember we had 7 episodes on Disney Plus. You remember that?
Yeah, it went really well. Yeah, so I think, you're right. She probably would have had to have been a bit more formal. What's interesting though then is that she doesn't appear to divulge any of her history then with Obi-Wan to Luke or anyone during the events of 4, 5, and 6.
Right. Yeah, that we're aware of, I guess, because even in the From a Certain Point of View books that have dozens of vignettes for each of the original trilogy movies, I don't believe it being referenced in there either, of Leia touching on her prior connection with Obi-Wan. But I mean, she's lived a very exciting life, and these events, while incredibly impactful and important, lasted maybe a week in total. And that's really all she got of Obi-Wan. I mean, she was 10 at the time. By the time we get to episode 4, she's 19, 20, and, older in episodes 5 and 6. So is it that incredibly important of a thing? Maybe not for the story as it's being told. Does it come up while they're having calf and smoking a death stick around the campfire with some crazy Ewoks? Perhaps.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, ultimately, it's just fun, and it's just more Star Wars, and we can nitpick and then go down the rabbit hole with every single detail, but ultimately, let's just have fun with like you say, with a cup of calf and some death sticks around the fire and enjoy a bit of Star Wars.
Exactly.
That's all good.
We should sell those packages, calf and death sticks.
So yeah, he does have a relationship with Leia though, and it sort of becomes more formal and secretive. And I think that's because of who Leia is and who she understands to some degree who she is. She doesn't obviously understand exactly who she is, and we touched on that when we did the Leia episode and we talked about bloodlines. And when she does find out, after she's found out who her real father is, and all of that, how she's dealing with that. But she does know in the Kenobi show that she was adopted. It's very clear to her, but she considers Bail Organa her father. But she knows that she does have a real mother and a real father that Obi-Wan knew. He makes that clear to her as well. So she knows that there is a sort of secrecy between them, and she understands that there's a cordiality and a candor that needs to be maintained.
Which is exactly personified in one of the most famous scenes in Star Wars, of course, the hologram. So that makes sense why she would stick to that element of the way she talks to him. Yeah.
All right, mate. Me again.
Yeah. You ready for another adventure?
It was 9 years ago, but I've done it again. They're after me again.
Remember this R2 unit too? No, he really doesn't. Okay, we're not going to...
Do you remember your mate Darth? Also, that's the other thing I love about the Kenobi show is that's the first, that kind of in episode 4 when he has his lightsaber duel with Vader and he knows that he's going to die. He knows he's going to make the ultimate noble sacrifice because he's had his time training with Qui-Gon. He knows where this is all leading. And he just gives that wry smile over towards Luke and brings the saber up in front of him and just lets him get swiped out, taken out. And there's a moment during that fight with Vader where he says, "Only a master of evil, Darth." And of course, if he knows he doesn't call him Anakin at that point. And I love that scene where he does face him with the rocks and everything, and he realizes that there's really no way back because Anakin's he's done the old mask cut. Anakin said to him, "You didn't fail me, Obi-Wan." And this is kind of like the ultimate vindication at this point for Obi-Wan as well. Like we talked about his path back to being himself. He's kind of like Anakin almost confirms that that Obi-Wan, it wasn't his fault. He doesn't need to blame himself. Yeah. He says, "You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker. I did."
Yeah.
And then at that point, he's kind of like, he's definitely gone and there's no coming back for him. So he says something like, "See you around, Darth."
Yeah. See you on the flip side, Darth.
Yeah. Because, goodbye, Darth, or something like that, which is great.
And then he winks at the camera.
Yeah. Wait for when you watch episode 4 again.
Now it's gonna make sense why I call him Darth. Yeah, exactly. You're welcome.
But there's so many lovely little Easter eggs like that, and the T16 Skyhopper model.
Yeah, that's my favorite part. Yeah, that's my favorite part. Gives it to Uncle Owen to give to Luke, and in that moment, as much as Owen says he hates Obi-Wan, and he does because he's kind of ruined his life, that he still respects him and he does give him the gift, and Luke holds it so dear all throughout his life. Yeah, it's very poetic. It's a great rewatch.
That show does a great job by those two relationships with Kenobi and Owen. It kind of does a lot to explain why Owen is such a difficult man in episode 4 and where he's coming from. It does a lot for that, but it also does a lot for the Obi-Wan Luke relationship, that he does sort of have a moment to meet him, but he is clearly like this odd uncle who lives out in the Dune Sea somewhere, and he's just Ben.
Yep.
That does a great job of explaining that kind of history.
Yeah. And I think Luke and Obi-Wan's relationship is the strangest out of anybody that he has a relationship with,
because
Luke only really knows him as this goofy, quacky, like hermit guy, and then he's dead, and then he knows him as this weird, goofy
toy.
Yeah. Exactly. They left him a toy one day, one Christmas, and thought he was Santa Claus, and then knows him as this goofy, quacky Force ghost that tells half truths and speaks like in veiled language all the time. So he's got a very strange relationship with Obi-Wan, unlike the relationship that Obi-Wan has with anybody else. Does that? Well, I guess anything else to add with Obi-Wan and Luke's relationship, and does that relationship make it more likely that Luke ends up the way he does in Episode 8 in The Last Jedi?
Possibly, because in some ways Obi-Wan is a bit of a father figure, isn't he, to Luke? Certainly in Episode 4, he sort of has a very similar trajectory after sort of a realization or a moment of tragedy. With the, for Luke, it's the loss of Ben Solo to the dark side. For it's same tragedy for Obi-Wan with the loss of Anakin to the dark side. That they both sort of wallow in their pits of carcoon.
Yeah.
And their despair. They wallow in their despair, and then they see the folly of that and come back round again.
Right.
So it's kind of like realizing that their mistakes are not things to sit and ruminate on. I suppose this is the lesson that it's trying to teach us all, right? Yoda even says it in Episode 8, where he's like, folly is life's greatest teacher, it is, or something like that. Yeah. So mistakes are there to learn from.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that trajectory of almost the father figure and the son figure sort of going through the same very sort of Freudian sort of.
Right. Yeah. With everybody here not actually having access to their father and having these supplanted father figures. Yeah. Yeah. There's a reason that those stories resonate so much.
So he does have is an interesting relationship with Luke, and I think the reason why he tells him that a fib is because he knows that Luke will eventually find out, but he knows that he needs to find out at a certain time and in a certain way. Again, it's just the masterful. It's the wry smile of like, I'm going to commit seppuku.
Yep.
So that you can grow. and it's the same kind of thing. He's like, I know that you can, I know the truth. I'm not going to tell you the truth, but you'll find out the truth. And when you do, you'll come back. We'll have another chat by the fireside.
Right.
And I'll explain my point of view.
Yeah. I think that there's no other way Obi-Wan could have done it in being so limited. We don't know all the ins and outs of how a Force ghost communes with a living person, but I imagine the 5G connection isn't that great, and you have a limited time to do it, and things have to be set up perfectly. So in my mind, you have to communicate kind of quickly, clearly, because you might not have a long time to have this interaction. Thinking of Obi-Wan showing up on Hoth to a almost dead Luke Skywalker, like he can't communicate very much, but the best he can do is to get him to the very next step. So I think once he's Force Ghost, he's really this mysterious wizard role that just leaves these little breadcrumbs. It's not like he's overtly training Luke as a ghost. That's probably not possible in this capacity. But he leads him to the next chapter and leads him to the next chapter and leads him to the next chapter.
Although by the time we get to Return of the Jedi, he's obviously mastered the art of being a Force ghost, because he's able to kind of walk around and sit down and have a sort of jolly old fireside chat with him.
Yeah. I do wonder what happens when the camera cuts away on Endor and everybody's laid out there hanging out. Luke goes, "Oh, shoot. What's up, guys? Come on over. Hey, want some calf and some death sticks? These Ewoks are friggin' crazy." I guess that's for us to create.
Yeah, that's why we love Star Wars, right? Is that it's the imagination side of it, and the creating the stories with the side characters that exist in there, in as almost part of the decoration, and then you get to play with the figures and come up with your own tales.
Yeah, exactly. There he is, right up there, Obi-Wan and his Master Qui-Gon.
I've got the ghostly one.
There we go. So, somehow we managed to, I think, come to an end of talking about Obi-Wan. Not the easiest thing to do.
No, because we get all of his life and then some.
Yeah, and then extra, which is pretty rare for a character like this. And he will surely be tied into so many other episodes that we do with so many other characters coming up.
Absolutely.
So, not saying goodbye to Obi-Wan, but this was fun to go through the life and times of Obi-Wan Kenobi. I look forward to him showing up in all of our future chats too.
And hopefully I've done a good job by him in terms of my putting forward my promotion of him as potentially being the greatest character in all of Star Wars for when we do. Well, I think we need to do like a top 10 at some point.
Well, it'll be a bit spoiled because we know what your number one is.
Yeah, well, that's my number one.
That's good. Yeah, it'll be all about your number two. Who's going to make it up to the second slot? Yeah,
Han Solo.
Okay, stop. Be bleeping you out a bit.
Yeah, Han Solo is going to be a lot of people's number one, but I'm putting Obi-Wan up there. See,
okay. I see what you're doing.
We'll make some. We've got to leave it open for some debate.
Yes. Be ready for the pending top 10s then. As Obi-Wan transitioned into a Force Ghost, let's transition over to Youngling's Corner.
Truly wonderful the mind of a child is.
You might remember that I had a specific Life Day request from my eldest for twin blasters, and I went for the upgrade and got him the Hasbro 2008 Combi blaster, the way you can make a DC-17, DC-15, and DC-15A. It's an absolute mammoth beast, and we had a lot of fun with it on the show. So he, as predicted, the upgrade worked absolutely perfectly. He was far more impressed with that than what he thought he was going to get. So he was well chuffed, and it was all good, and it survived the journey of where we needed to get it to as well. But I'll let you guess what happened next.
No. The younger of your two was gutted at how cool the toy was, and he got a hold of it and accidentally broke it.
Good guess. You're on the right lines, but it wasn't the younger one. The older one himself decided that the fire mechanism was too slow, and he wanted to shoot it like it was Battlefront 2, and he overcooked it and literally cooked the speaker system inside.
No.
So the sound is kaput.
Oh,
and
das ist nicht gut.
Yeah, on Christmas Day, I'm like with a little Phillips screwdriver opening the whole thing up to see if there's any way I can, using ChatGPT to see if I can figure out a way to repair it. But it wasn't, just the whole speaker drum is blown out. So yeah, gutted, because it sounded great. You remember we played with it on the show.
We've got video evidence that it sounded fantastic. Yeah. You can at least show him that and say this is what it was like.
Exactly. Well, it worked initially, and he was loving it, but he was just like, I want to shoot faster. I want to shoot faster.
That sounds like your child.
And he just was like bang, 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 and it just blew the speaker out. So I was fuming because after the trouble I'd gone to source that upgrade. But I do have a sneaky solution up my sleeve, because do you remember I said that I bought it in component parts?
Yeah.
So I do have another sort of base DC-17 part. So from another one that I bought. So I'm hoping that one will work, and then I can replace it. But for the time being, I'm not going to do it, because he's just going to do it again otherwise.
Yes.
So yeah. And at the moment, he's chuffed with it still. He likes playing with it, and he says, I'm not worried about the sounds. I can do better ones with my mouth anyway.
Yeah. Which I totally get as a 10-year-old, 9-year-old. Like, you've got a greater imagination than what's limited in that
little exactly.
vocoder.
So he's running around doing it all with his mouth, but he absolutely adores it. So that went well.
That's awesome.
It went well. And then my younger one got a couple of Lego sets. But, he's got the new Darth Maul Lego mech. and the and a Bosk bounty hunter set from previously, because he's a big fan of Bosk.
Yeah, cool. There's I don't know if they've read any of the High Republic books, or if you've showed them any of the. There's some kids High Republic books too, but there's a Trandoshan Jedi Master named Skier, which Bosk is a Trandoshan, and he is so cool. He's just incredibly overpowering, and all of his dialogue has him talking like a bit of a snaky guy, and I think your younger one would absolutely adore him. So I'm going to see if I can find some comics kind of meant for some younger kids, and see if I can, I don't know, figure out how to get them to you, or the audiobooks, because when he does his voicing, it's just Trandoshan Jedi Master, talking like this the whole time. As very, very
cool. Yeah, definitely do that. So yeah, that's quick Younglings corner update.
Very nice. I think on my end, my little one, she got a couple of Star Warsy onesies and jammies that she promptly threw up and pooped all over. So I think things are going fantastic.
So it's all going smoothly.
Yeah. I got a Star Wars shirt that I also threw up on and pooped all over.
Yeah, the brainwashing continues.
As it does. Well, we are absolutely over the Tatooinean moons that you all have joined us on today's episode, and we look forward to hearing from you, whether that's at our email, onlyStarWarsFools@gmail.com, whether you're on the SpeakPipe, which is speakpipe.com/onlyfools. Leave a voice message, we'll play it, and we'll chat about whatever you want to chat about. Reach out, like and subscribe, as they always say, and whether you're in the core worlds, the mid-rim, or the outer rim, thanks for joining. See you next time.
I really like what you did with that segue, except for it's Tatooinean suns, not moons.
I'm gutted.
Just for the eagle-eyed.
But it doesn't go with the saying over the moon. I'm over the sun. That doesn't make sense. What am I?
I'm just preempting the comments that we're gonna get, because we're gonna get some. If you liked what you heard here today, don't forget to tell some more fools. Remember, who's the more foolish? The fool or the fool who follows him? Like and subscribe. Always.